You'd mentioned the LEAP Apprenticeship program. Can you tell us a little more about what is the LEAP program? And I'd love to hear about what it was like building that. And if somebody, I think the outcome or intention is for somebody who wanted to start to build out an apprenticeship type program for their own company, the early experience I think would be really fascinating to get into to how to set something up and launch something like that.
The origins of that program, and now it's called the Microsoft LEAP program, or Microsoft LEAP simply. And the origins of it were simply, goes back a few years actually. So in 2006, I moved to India to train our engineers how to be engineers. And what I identified, and the reason they had me go there, the leadership there asked for me explicitly. They wanted to solve a problem. And the problem was every summer they would have like 300 college hires come in, because and they only had like 700 full timers at the time. So 300, 700 is like they almost outnumber you, you know. And we had this revolving door where it's like they'd come in, they'd kind of splash around for a year or less, and then they'd leave because someone else would offer them 10 or 15% pay raise, and that was it. And the exit interviews indicated that people were leaving because they felt like they were an only, they didn't have support, they're thrown in the deep end, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I set up this program, and it was 5 weeks where every college hire came to me first. And I trained them up on how to be engineers. But more importantly, again, with the human thing, is I put them into groups of 6 or 7, so that and this was out of a set of, we did like 100, 120 at a time. So we would have 3 cohorts per summer. But I put them in groups of 6 or 7, and they would work as a team. And they would go to lunch, and they would support each other in writing code and blah, blah, blah. And the premise there was that, again, you need a social fabric, right? The most important thing of going a minority culture going into a majority culture is that you need social fabric, or else you're going to flounder. You're going to just flail. And when push comes to shove, you're going to go, well, I don't like this. So sure, I'll take your 15% pay raise, right? It can't be any worse. So we started this program, and that program was called LEAP. And it was an acronym because I like acronyms, and that was the LEAP Engineering Acceleration Program. And the concept was that we would accelerate their learning of our engineering roles, right? So that was 2006, and I finally left India in 2009. So for 3 years, 300 college students per year, roughly 1,000 of them, right, went through that. Roll forward to 2015, and we have this challenge of hiring more diverse talent. I'll just say that. So I took up this challenge from my engineering leader, and I said, okay, what are we doing now? What are we not doing? And what we weren't doing was actually hiring people. Right? We're spending a lot of money in diversity, but we weren't actually hiring people, right? And this was true across the industry. And I thought, well, why? What's the gap? What's going on here? What's the problem? And there's just common refrains like, oh, there's no qualified candidates, and anything you can imagine. The bar, we don't want to lower the bar, just everything. And I thought, well, there's plenty of intelligent people out here. We just don't have the mechanism to get them in, because we hire through college and we hire industry. College, if you didn't come out straight out of college with a 4-year degree, we're not going to pick you up, right? And industry, if you don't have 10 years of experience, we're probably not going to hire you, right? Well, if you're neither one of those, you're not going to get a job, right? You need something in the middle, which is, well, they had a CS degree and they were in tech, but it's a mom who stopped for 7 years to raise the kids. You think they're no longer intelligent, right? We need an avenue, right? Or, hey, here's all these people with STEM degrees. They're just coming over from physics or mathematics or econ, whatever.
Geology in the case of Jerry. Jerry is a geology major.
There you go. Geology. It's like they're all smart people. You think how did they get the degree? Right? And they've been out in industry doing something, so they know how to collaborate. If they were a good barista, they're probably a good people person. So we created this program, and it was initially called Industry Explorers, to indicate, oh, we're taking people from industry and they're exploring. So that's how it started. I thought back to my days in India, and I said, well, the same thing applies here. you need a social fabric. And yeah, we're going to teach you how to do the stuff. You need to be able to do the job. And we took people who had already gone through coding academies or whatever, so they're hot to go on the tech skills. Maybe not 4 years worth of CS degree, but they know what's modern and useful, right? Doing web design. Um, so we created this cohort model and we ran a couple of cohorts like that. And it's like, oh, yeah, um, it seems to work. Meaning, we got the hiring managers to sponsor these cohorts. So they knew going in, they helped do the selection of the people who were going to be their apprentices, if you will. So they interviewed them and everything. And so 5 weeks up front, some training, and then 12 weeks of in the group. So they're essentially doing the same sort of stuff that a college intern would have done, right? And then at the end of it, just like with our college interns, we get to make a hiring decision, right? It's like, oh, we'd like to hire you. Would you like to work here? And they can say yes or no. So that was roughly the program, Industry Explorers. And then the name changed because someone within Microsoft said, well, we're using that name, Industry Explorers. So I said, I know. How about Leap? So it was called Leap, and then eventually it now is housed in our HR department. So it's called Microsoft Leap because they don't like acronyms. So it's just Microsoft Leap. But that was the thing. It was just basically taking learnings in terms of what you had to do to create social fabric and applying it to this new situation where you're trying to hire diverse talent.
I really love the going back to the social fabric concept because I think the first time that's ever become explicit for me to understand the power of when you help create that sense of social fabric for folks that they're able to just better connect and be connected and identify with the organization.
Yeah, I mean it's critical, and you know because when it's like 5 weeks. I'm not going to give you a CS degree that takes 4 years and 5 weeks. That's not going to happen. But I can teach you how to work with your peers to set up a study group, so that you can support each other. And over the next 4 or 5 years, yeah, of course you're going to know as much as the guy who graduated with a CS degree, because you're self motivated and you support each other. There's nothing here you can't learn you know so yeah, the social fabric is most important, and then the second thing that's important is to recognize that really what we did was training the hiring managers how to look at talent differently. You might say, oh well, you hired a bunch of people. It's like, yeah, we hired some people, but really what I did was I changed the culture. I changed the job descriptions to not have to require a CS degree. I showed a bunch of hiring managers and gave them practical experience in hiring different talent. And I put in place a number of people who, over 7 years, are now the hiring managers. So the virus continues. They will now hire more diversely, right? That's really what it is. It's not how many people did the program hire. It's like they hired enough people such that there's enough critical mass that they are now hiring managers and they're now hiring diversely, right?